Unless you've been living under a rock, you'll notice that everyone on the internet is suddenly talking about Claude. But most explanations are either fanboy noise or completely miss what it means for people in the real estate development and construction industries. Hi guys, this is Toby. I've worked on more than $15 billion of global real estate and construction projects, and now I help developers and construction teams automate workflows that used to consume entire teams, hundreds of hours, and thousands of dollars. And Claude is the tool that I run my business on every day, every appraisal, every report, every contract. And nobody's paying me to say that, which means I can also tell you where it falls short. And believe me, it does fall short. But by the end of this video, you'll know exactly what Claude is, why it suits development and construction better than any other AI, and how to use it better than 99% of people in our industry, as well as the honest limits that you need to know before you trust it with anything that actually matters. Let's get into it. There are 3 ways to work with Claude. The first thing to understand is that Claude isn't one tool. It's 3 different ways of working, and knowing which one you need will save you months of trial and error. The first way is to chat on browser or the desktop app that you've probably already seen and used. You ask it questions, you get answers. And on its own, it's a brilliant stranger. It knows everything about construction in general and nothing about your project in particular. Good for research, brainstorming, and quick answers, but ask it about your contract and it can only guess because it hasn't read a single word. And fixing it is what projects are for, but we'll get to that in a minute. The second way is co-work, and this is delegation rather than conversation. You point it to a folder in your computer, hand it the tasks with multiple steps, and it executes. For example, a folder of subcontractor quotes. You ask it to organize them, build a comparison spreadsheet, and flag any missing items against it. Then it will build out the entire dashboard and comparison document while you go and enjoy a nice coffee. And the third way is Claude Code, and this is the engine room, and it runs on your machine in the terminal, and it reads your files, it writes scripts, it builds automation and connects system. It's how I built things like automated reporting. It's also deep water, and my honest advice is most people don't need to be working in Claude Code unless you enjoy the thought of working in the terminal and have a few evenings free to get into the weeds. Skip it for now because there is a bit of a learning curve. The first 2 ways are enough to transform your week on their own, and the engine room will still be there when you're ready. The next element is projects and memory. Projects is the feature that matters most for our industry and is the most underutilized aspect that people are completely overlooking and ignoring. Think of it as like the site office for your AI. You set up one project per job and pin everything to the wall: the contract, the specs, the key drawings, the appraisals, and a page of instructions covering who the client is, what the scheme is, your role, and your standards. From then on, every conversation inside that project starts already knowing your specific project information. No re-explaining, no pasting the same background information in for the 14th time. And another great part about projects is they also carry memory. If you work in a project for a few sessions, it starts to remember the decisions you've made and what you're working towards. And it brings that information forward into the next conversation, which means the tools get more useful in week 6 than they were in week 1. And after a while, it starts to act more like a second brain. 2 more vital pieces of why Claude Code is so relevant to our industry are artifacts and connections. Artifacts are what Claude makes when the output is a thing rather than the answer. For example, a notice letter, a delayed report, a cost breakdown, or a tracker. It appears in its own panel and you refine it there. You can also share a link to the artifact so one of your colleagues can review it without ever having to integrate into their AI themselves. But it gives you a proper formatted document, complete deliverables, not a long worded text that you have to copy and paste back into a work document. And connectors plug Claude into the tools you already use. So it can read your email, calendar, your Drive, Slack, Notion, and any other tool you're currently using. And here's the straight truth for our industry though. Most construction software hasn't got a Claude connection yet. Some are on the horizon, but until then, don't burn weekends trying to find workarounds. Connect your storage files, export what you need, and drop it into the project and move on, because 99% of the time, that's more than enough. But this is the part of the video where you get into the 1% club of AI power users in our industry. And it's all around skills and plugins. A skill is not a prompt. and the difference matters. A prompt is an instruction shouted across the room. A skill is a method statement. It's a package that holds step-by-step procedures and output templates and reference documents and your standards, and sometimes even scripts to run. But what it means is that Claude reads the skill method and pulls out the right template that you've provided it previously. It checks the reference and then it produces the work the same way every single time. We've got a detailed video on how to create Claude skills and what the output looks like. I'll add it into the watch this video next at the end of this video, so stay tuned. But think about your weekly update reports or the notes to your board presentation you have to do. It's more likely you've already got a method or an outline template for how each one of these processes works that usually lives in your head. But a skill gets it out of your head and into a package that AI then executes, so the output stops depending on how much time you have in the day to actually get the labor-intensive work done and how quickly you can just give the work to Claude. I'll give you a real example. I built a skill that produces a full real estate development appraisal, the kind of feasibility that a consultant would usually charge $100,000 for. There's an entire video of it on the channel showing it working. I'll link to it. But the point is, a skill is not a clever prompt. It's a captured process, and knowing and executing the difference is what turns you into an AI power user and keeps you light years ahead of the competition. And also we have to mention plugins at this stage, which are like a level above, and they bundle several skills together, the templates and the tools and the connections into one installable package for the whole area of work. So for example, if you were to appoint a superstructure frame contractor, you would put every drawing, document, contract agreement, and piece of information into this artifact and teach it the skills how to review drawings, how to review contracts, and all of the multiple skills piled up create the artifact. And it would act like your secondary employer's agent who can give you an answer within seconds, making sure that every term and requirement was completed within the agreed timeframe and to the exact specification required. All right, guys, just a quick one. If you're thinking that you can see how useful this could be, but you just don't know which one of your processes to capture first, that's precisely what our free evaluation call is for. The link's below. We go through your business or your personal workflow, and we map out where AI can be layered to 10x your output. Back to it. So that's everything that's good about Claude, but let's get realistic and let me tell you everywhere that it falls short. Because at the end of the day, Claude is still an AI, and you as the human are still liable for the decisions you make. And here's where I won't let Claude or any other AI fly completely solo. The first is letting them take complete ownership of all of the financial models, cost plans, drawings, or takeoffs. Because while it's getting good at reading drawings and financial models, and it is improving fast, you'd have to be a brave person to hand off a completely finished model unchecked. So you use it to accelerate your process, but not completely replace it. Another issue we mentioned is there's still connector gaps. As mentioned, the construction software world hasn't yet caught up and therefore is limited to how many things in our industry it can actually interact with. But keep an eye on our newsletter because we announce the new ones that are coming out. And it feels like at the moment, there's about 10 new AI announcements made every single week. And then our third and one of the biggest restrictions, especially with Claude, is the usage limits. Now, the entry paid plan can quickly run out of tokens or responses that Claude can give you under heavy daily use. If you use it the same way that I'm describing, you'll likely want to go for the higher tier, which is around $100 a month. But that's still in itself really good value if you consider how much output you actually get from it. But the important factor is you need to budget for it. Don't let these costs spiral because they can spiral. We've heard nightmare stories of someone who let their Claude running overnight and came home to a $1,500 bill the next day. And finally, of course, the big one is hallucinations. Now, while it's much better than it was a year ago, it's still possible, which is also why the genius of skill helps to add a lot more context. But you need to make sure you have a method for keeping a human in the loop and make sure there's a human name against every final call, decision made, and work submitting. One of our founding rules for this channel is AI drafts, a human decides. Because if you're just going to take what AI gives you and hand it off to someone else as your own work, then I'm afraid you deserve to and probably will get caught out eventually. But for the most part, Claude is still the best current AI tool that I've used for development and construction. And the two primary reasons are our industry, above all, is document heavy and process driven. Contract specs, RFIs, cost reports, correspondence, emails. It's the same workflows repeated on every job. Projects hold the documents, skills hold the process, connectors bring the tools, and memory compounds the lot. And the writing quality for notices, email, onboarding papers, and executive reports are the strongest that I've seen. And here's how you can get started today. Get the paid plan and set up one project on one live job and pin the documents in. Capture one process as a skill, like a report or a note or whichever burns the most hours in your week. One project, one skill, and that's the whole first month challenge that I set you and how you can implement this today. And if you're thinking that you can see how this could change and impact you, but don't know where to start and want help, that's precisely what we do in our free evaluation call. The link is below. We go through your business or your personal workflows and map out where AI can be layered in to 10x your output. And then the question that I have for you to answer in the comments this week is, what's the first task on your project list that you would hand to Claude? I read and respond to every single one. So let's start the conversation below. And finally, as promised, the video that I made on the 10,000 consultant appraisal that we replaced by using a Claude skill. The next video should be here on screen now. Thanks very much for watching, everyone. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I'll see you in the next one.